Hey, what's up everybody? Andre with AndreReese.Biz. All right guys, this is my first bike ride of 2026. I want to wish you guys all a happy new year. And then just real quick, today I want to talk about three topics real fast. I want to talk about 805 is what I charge for the average tax client. I'll explain all that to you guys here in a second. $805, is it worth it and what do you get? And we can also talk about Avatar. Went and check that out. I'm gonna give you guys my opinion on the movie Avatar. Then the last thing we'll talk about here is controversial topic for sure. We'll discuss Nick Shirley. There you go. All right, so before we do all that, just wanted to say I want to wish you guys a happy new year. It's 2026. I hope you guys had a fantastic time ringing in the holidays, whatever it is that you guys celebrate. And like I said, this is my first ride of 2026. Glad to be out here in these streets doing this real quick. Man, I underestimated it. It's 51 degrees, but it's a cold 51 degrees. I think I probably needed one more layer of clothing on. You know, I think I needed to put on another pair of tights and have on another long sleeve underneath that doubled up as a hood that kind of covered the side of my face up. But, you know, the night is upon us and our brother is not going back. So we're going to go down here and do this quick lap real fast and make it do what it does. So yeah, like I said, you know, happy new year to all you guys. Hope you had a wonderful time celebrating with family and friends. And what do? We ended up going to out here in Richmond. VCU is like the main college. It's everywhere, and so it's a wide open campus, so it's not necessarily concentrated to one area. But we went and checked out the basketball game that they had. It was at 2 o'clock at, I think it's Spiegel Center is what it's called. We had some great seats, almost center court, just off a little bit. I think we were in row O, so what was that, like 11 or 12 rows up from the bottom. So we had a great time watching the game. It was very exciting. You know, it was like a nail biter back and forth the whole way. Then the last little bit of the game, VCU pulled it out, and so we went ahead and supported the team. I went a little bit early, and that morning, and I went ahead and got some jerseys, not jerseys, but T-shirts for us to wear. That way we can fly the colors and not be standout. So we had a great time at the game. Then later on that evening, to actual ring in the New Year hour, we went and got together with some family. It was the same family we hung out with for Thanksgiving, where we all went out to North Carolina, Outer Banks. It was like 22 of us, including the kids. And so everybody had a great time. Ended up doing the last 2 hours was kind of like a praise and worship. One of the family members does a phenomenal job playing the piano. I think he played for church at one time. And so it was like a nonstop singing and thankful fest and a little bit of praise and worship. So it was definitely really, really cool. And then when midnight hit, pandemonium kind of ensued, you know, with the celebration and all that. And then I'll tell you, right about 1:03, I was ready to go to bed. Or I should say 12:03, I was ready to go to bed. So a great time was had by all, you know, for sure. So, and this is a great topic to start out with. The average fee, the average tax return that I charge for, like I said, is about $805. And it's a good time to talk about all this because right now, tax season is upon us. And I've already gone and updated my website. Only thing I have left to do is record a video on YouTube that gives all the instructions and attach that to my website. But everything else is ready to go. I spent probably 2.5 days, 3 days working on refreshing, updating language, and adding a bunch of pictures. And so very happy, very excited about the final product. So you guys get a chance, you want to find out about what I do, just visit AndreReese.Biz, AndreReese.Biz. You'll be able to find all the information you need to know about tax season. Plus I also have a lot of very clever marketing that I do. And so there's kind of a depository of those receipts that I've done, I think over the last 3 years on this website. So I didn't bring the stuff over from the old original company. So you guys will be able to check that stuff out, you know, there for sure. So that's it. So give me a second, let me get up on the sidewalk. I'm gonna go right up there. Hang on a second. Let me get through these guys real quick. All right, cool. All right, so like I said, right now, the average client that I deal with, and so like I said, what I charge, like I said, about $805 is about the average price that I charge to prepare a tax return, based upon the clientele that I attract. And so if you come in with just a W-2 and you don't really need to have anything else to be done, the base price I charge for this tax season is $355 to prepare the return. And so, but the typical return that I prepare has, my client has a profile. They're typically homeowners. They've got kids. You guys can see the sign behind me, VCU. So they are homeowners. They have children. A lot of times one person works in tech. I got a lot of clients that work for Google and Apple, as well as Facebook and Tesla in the Bay Area. Those are all the big name brand ones. And then they always have RSUs, restricted stock units, that get kicked out to them every year, and they become part of their pay. And there's a reconciliation that needs to be done. That way you can minimize the amount of tax you had to pay. And I give you an example. I had one client, their previous tax person didn't know what the hell they were doing. And so for 3 years, they had miscalculated their RSUs, and they had a tax bill. It was at least $500,000 between the 3 years. I think it was probably closer to $650 or so. And so I went back and redid all the tax returns and amended them, and eliminated most of that tax bill. So, because they were done incorrectly. And then the other thing that my clients typically have is a lot of times in California, people own an LLC, and I have a fee that I charge for that. And with having a California LLC, there's an additional document that needs to be filed with California that I charge for also as well. And so that typically rounds out the client. So essentially they'll have an LLC for California, or they may have just a Schedule C business, sole proprietorship, or they may have a sole proprietorship. They may have a couple of those, or they may have a sole proprietorship and own a rental property, or have 2 rental properties. So there's essentially 2 business transactions that need to be filed. So the basic return is, like I said, $355 if you don't own a home. If you own a home, I add on $100 so you can recognize the mortgage interest and the property taxes and all that good stuff. And stuff like childcare, interest, dividends that you may receive, I don't charge to add those on the return. If you have like multiple W-2s, you work 3 or 4 jobs, whatever it might be, I don't charge additional costs for those things. And so that all falls into the $355 or the $455. Then we add on $50 for the reconciliation for the RSUs. And then typically each business that I file for, if it's a Schedule C, just a sole proprietorship, it costs $150 to do that. If you want to add on for the LLC, the requirement for California, I charge an extra $150 for that. And then on top of that, you can take these two businesses and swap them out interchangeably between having a couple businesses. I have clients that one person will drive sometimes DoorDash, other one may drive Uber occasionally. So they may have two different businesses that need to be reported. Or each spouse may have their own separate business, or one spouse may have two businesses that they run that are unique. So that falls under that. Or somebody might have a rental property. So those scenarios there are $150 each times two, which is $300. If you add everything up, it works out to be about $805. So you're like, damn, that's a lot of money to file a tax return. And actually, it's not. So the main thing that you get from if you're going to file just a simple W-2, yeah, you can probably do that yourself. Go online, not QuickBooks, but you can do TurboTax or one of those other services, you know. But the thing is, if the tax code penalizes the worker, and so it provides benefits to those that are business owners. They provide housing for folks, you know, rental property, etc. And they, like I said, they penalize the actual W-2 worker. So if you want to try to minimize the amount of tax that you have to pay on your return, the best thing for you to do is utilize the services of somebody like me. So I've got numerous clients over the years that just first got to me when they got out of college, or they weren't making a lot of money, but they're like, you know what? I want to be able to take advantage of a lot of these things that folks do to reduce the amount of tax they have to pay. And those are the kind of clients that work out great with me, because I can walk you through and I can coach you through what you need to do. And so not everything's going to happen all at one time in one tax season. A lot of these things take 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years to do. But the thing is, if something happens where you have a question about what you can do, or something comes up at work, or you have a issue where, you know, you're thinking about getting married and you want to figure out how that's going to affect your tax return before you actually, you know, pull the trigger. If your spouse has back child support that they owe, you know, you want to know how that's going to affect you. You know, you're thinking about pulling some money out of your retirement account for whatever reason, or to buy a house, and you want to find out how much tax you're going to have to pay and how that's going to affect you, and you want to make sure that there's no surprises. That's the reason for utilizing me. And in simple terms, if you think about it, I charge $195 for about an hour to talk to clients. So if people aren't my client at all, they're brand new, we don't have any relationship, they've got a question or issue, I don't give free tax advice. You know, so everybody wants free tax advice. You know, use Google, ChatGPT for that type of stuff. But if you want to have something that really truly applies to you, and it gives you options that are based upon, you know, what's going on in your life, you want to utilize a tax professional for sure. Here, hang on a second. And so when you're able to do that, you know, it's going to allow you to make better decisions, and that way there's not going to be any, here, hang on, let me get through here real quick. That way there's not any surprises at a later date. So, all right. Right behind you. Okay. So yeah, that way there's not going to be any surprises at a later date. And I use this example all the time. I had a client that won $10 million in the lottery. You're like, God damn, that's a lot of money. Yeah, it is. It's a butt ton of money. And hey, his daughter reached out to me because he used to just go to Jackson Hewitt at Walmart next to the bathroom, have him prepare his tax returns. So, you know, and when you win that much money in California, they're going to, you know, withhold just a minimal amount, but it's not enough to cover the actual tax bill. And so she reached out to me on his behalf and said, hey, here, hang on one second. Said, hey, my dad won this money, and I just want to make sure he doesn't get screwed at the end of the year. because he has all these things that he wants to do. So he called me up, make a long story short, he called me up and made an appointment. He came into my office and we sat down and we talked. And so we spent a lot of time just talking about life in general and his journey and how he ultimately got to the point where he won the money, you know, and talked about people in his family, you know, that he wanted to, you know, take care of, that type of a thing. And so make a long story short, I said, dude, this is what you got to do. You know, if you want to pay off your house, go ahead and do that. If you want to pay off your cars, what little credit card debt you got, go ahead and do it. And from there, just sit tight, you know, and let's do this right now. So I ended up charging him to meet and then also to run a calculation. I got all of his pertinent information and I was able to run a scenario, and I came up with a tax bill that he was going to owe $750,000. You're like, that's a lot of money. Yeah, it is. But if you got, you know, a big check, it's just a drop in the bucket. And so I ended up telling him, I said, set aside $775,000 to pay the tax. And so he went ahead and did that and didn't make any other moves. And from that point, he said, all right, I'm gonna contact you next year when I get all my documents. So he was literally the first person in the door that year. And he gave me all of his documents and processed his return, asked a bunch of questions, and then of course the tax bill came back that he owed $750,000. So reached out to him and told him, and he was ecstatic. He was so happy, you know. So there's nothing wrong with owing as long as you know that you're going to owe. And so he gladly carried a check into the IRS office on probably the 14th or the 15th of April, sideways, dropped it off and paid his taxes due. And he's been a client, you know, ever since. So like I said, nothing wrong with owing tax, you know, and the simple fact that you can call me on the phone and ask me almost any question related to money, finance, life, whatever it might be, and I will share with you all the wisdom that I have. And most importantly, everything that I know about, I haven't done. I'm honest about that. But I have about 300 clients or so that I service. And in my life, I'm never gonna own 10 rental properties. I'm not gonna do that. But I have clients that have owned 10 rental properties. And so I can tell you the good, the bad, the ugly about, you know, having rental property. That way you can make a decision, you know, based upon, you know, the hype that you've heard and what everybody's talking about and what the reality of it is. That way there's no surprises. So I'm not ever here to not tell you to do something, you know, but if you decide that you want to, all good. All right, hang on a second. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so if you want to do something, go ahead, all good. My brother's not going to trip, and because you have more information than I do, and I'm just only providing you a small segment of what you need in order to make the proper decision for yourself. And so that's all I'm going to do, is just try to provide you with the information. That way you can make a full decision. And if you do something that is contrary to what I think you should do, hey, I'm not mad at you. I'm not tripping. Because like I said, the goal is for you to know what's good and what's bad about the decision that you decide you want to make. And so I just want you to be able to have the information necessary to be able to do that. So that's how that works. Here, hang on, let me turn around here real quick. Make sure I don't hit these folks. Okay, here we go. Okay, all right, we're good. All right, a little bit of a precision there, making this turn. So yeah, that's how it plays out. So like I said, if you are, you know, have a W-2 only and you pay $355 to have me file your return, you have the ability to ask me anything that you want to, and I will provide you with an honest opinion, information to be able to make a good decision. And if you take $195, just round it up to 200, subtract that from $355, what is that, like $160, I guess is what it is. So you figure if you have a basic return, you're really only paying, you know, $160 to get it done, and the rest of the fee is based upon consultations. And so during the year, I probably talk to, it varies year by year. This year I've talked to a lot of people because of the tax law changes with the Big Beautiful Bill Act that just passed. And but usually on average I talk to between 35 and maybe 45, 50% of my clients during the year. They reach out, they touch base. There's a lot of people that never call, you know, which is fine. I'm always here for them when they do. And so that's the reason why somebody on my average profile of a client, that's why they pay about $805 to get their return done. And they're more than happy to pay the fee. They come back year after year after year. And the other thing I do is once you're in my system and your stuff doesn't necessarily materially change that much as far as like what we're reporting, I only charge like $10 increase every year on your return. So my regular prices for my clients on the outside that are new coming in, they're going to pay a higher fee, of course, you know, whatever the market is that I'm charging for. But for you, as long as things remain the same, you're a client in good standing year after year, you're only generally looking at a $10 increase each year to get your return prepared. So there's a lot of value that is here, and being able to get that done. So that's it for the $805 tax return. And like I said, I have clients that pay a lot more than that, and I have ones that pay a lot less. You know, so that doesn't mean that in the end, let me slow down here, make sure I don't hit this kid. Okay, we're good. All right, so that doesn't mean that everybody gets charged that. And like I said, if you go to my website, check it out, check out fees, everything that I charge for, you know, S-Corps, what else on there? Got nonprofits, you know, all the different schedules that are done. You can easily find about what I charge. That way there's no surprises. So that's it. All right, so let's talk about the next topic. So next topic, man, Avatar. So we went over the, I don't know if it was, well, my daughter was here. It might have been right after Christmas, so the day after Christmas, I think it was Friday, we went to go watch Avatar. And so this is the third one, and I think it's Avatar, I forget the full title. It's Avatar something, fire, something. Not 100% sure, but we went to go check it out. So in Richmond, there is my favorite movie theater that I love to go to, which is the Cinema Cafe. And so we went and watched it in the big theater with the extreme seating and showing. It's the largest screen that they have. It's here, hang on a second. It's a dining room, all in one with the movie theater. And so with that, we are able to, let me just make sure I get through these people here. So with that, we're able to get through and check out the movie in the best screen out here in these RVA parts. And they don't charge a lot of money. I think it's like, we went during peak time. No, maybe it wasn't. I think it was 4 o'clock. And I think we paid like $12. And then I got if you're over 55, you get a senior discount. I take that all day long. I went ahead and got the senior rate. And I think altogether for us, and then we went also with niece and nephew. It wasn't that much. I think it was like $36, you know, to be able to see it. Maybe a little bit, like $46 or something for all of us to go watch, like all 5 of us. So it was a great deal. So, like I said, I saw Avatar last time it came out, and this is the 3rd one that came out. And I'll tell you, at this point, I'm done with Avatar. I'm not going to go back and watch Avatar 4, 5, 6, 7. To me, in my mind, they're very similar. And so I'm not here to poo-poo on the movie, because ultimately in the end, it works out to be, on a scale of 5, I give it 3 out of 5 stars. So it's just average. It's not spectacular. But the story is very repetitive from year to year. And so essentially, you got a nice little crew of folks that are hanging out, chilling, mind their own business. They keep an eye on the sky. The sky people show up, and then they disrupt. And then there's a war that happens. And in the end, the sky people lose, and they retreat. And folks that are left behind, they used to be on the sky team. They get absorbed into the folks that are, you know, on the Avatar planet, and then they go on to fight another fight when the next one comes out. So, like I said, there's at this point right now, you know, there's an argument whether it's a feature film or if it's animation or whatever, and James Cameron will argue one way or another. But I give the movie props for the cinematography, for the CGI, for them putting it together, for the sound and all that kind of stuff. But I think at this point right now, I'm pretty much done with the franchise, and I have no plans of coming back to watch it anymore. So, and I think the other thing, and I think the sad part is, and I think hopefully, it seems like Hollywood is dying, or has been dying. It's been in the process of consolidating, and they've had to try to figure out, especially this year and last year, what they're going to do with themselves. So there's been a lot of mergers that have taken place, a lot of acquisitions, and things like that have happened. And here, hang on a second. How you doing? Yeah, there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and, you know, shutdowns, and who is it? Recently, Netflix was trying to buy, forget which one, of the movie houses, and, you know, Trump jumped in and said he wouldn't let it happen. You know, so, and my daughter right now, I'm encouraging her, like, hey, this is your opportunity to do something big and learn as much as you can to mostly be able to be independent if you need to be, you know. So who knows what will happen, you know, with Hollywood. And I say a lot of the stuff that they've been coming out with over the last few years has just been remakes of stuff that already exists, you know, and very few things that they're coming out with are new, untested, and hang on a second. All right. Are new and untested and unproven. So they're trying to take, you know, the easier route. So if they decide to come out with a Iron Man 16, there is a huge audience of people that will just come and watch it because it's Disney, and they are comfortable with, you know, the franchise. And it's always the same stuff. You know, folks will come and check it out, and in the end, a lot of folks are disappointed. You know, you give it a little bit of time, and another year or two, people soon forget. The next Iron Man 35 comes out, people go watch that, they're disappointed, and you know, it's just a cycle, you know. And I think when it comes to anything, because we went to go watch Superman recently when it came out. Was it this year? I think earlier in the year or earlier last year. And I liked the Superman franchise before that. I didn't like this one at all. And I said, you know what? Going forward in the future, what's going on, man? I said, going forward in the future, I am no longer going to go watch that either. So, and so I think the only thing that I do like that's in the, you know, the universe with, you know, superheroes and stuff, I like Blade, and I like Tron. I like the Tron movie when it came out. I was happy that that came out at least. It's been on the shelf now for probably almost 20 years, and so I was very happy when that movie came out. And so, you know, a brother is pretty much done, like I said, with Avatar. So what am I going to do going forward? If it comes out, I'm not going to go see it in the movie theater. And you know, I'm hoping that in 2026, 2027, that things have ground down so much. And I think even like this season, for July 4th and for Thanksgiving and for Christmas, there really was no must-see blockbuster that everybody was talking about. You know, there was a lot more action going on Netflix, some of the stuff that people are watching on that versus, you know, like the Dave Chappelle special, and there was also the R. Kelly thing, not R. Kelly, but the P. Diddy thing that came out, you know, around Thanksgiving also as well. You know, so they are releasing potent, you know, cinematic releases around that time. It's just not hitting the theaters. So I'm hopeful that things will turn around. Like I said, I'm going to be very cautious going forward about spending my dollar on stuff that in the end I know I'm not going to like at all. So, and don't let this influence you one way or another. If you enjoy watching movies at the theater, go see them. If I used to have, I think it was a movie pass with AMC where I got 3 movies a week. I pretty much would go see almost everything that came out that was released. You know, there was very little skin off my back at that point. So do what's best for you and your family. But all I'm saying on my end, Avatar 4, I'll watch it when it comes out on streaming, you know, for sure. So, okay. All right, so how we doing here on time? So we're about 32 minutes into this. And so the last thing I'm going to talk about today is, you know, there's a lot of controversy around it right now, is Nick Shirley. So, damn, not many people knew who he was 2 weeks ago. But I'll tell you what, I've been following Nick Shirley on YouTube for at least well over a year, and probably a year and a half. And so he popped up in my feed. He had a video that he was doing, and I was watching it. And so after that, I kind of looked at some of his other content. I was like, oh, kind of an independent perspective. You know, let me check out, at least subscribe to him, so when something pops up, I can check it out, I can watch it. So, and who is Nick Shirley? So he's a 23-year-old young man, and he is a member of the LDS, Latter-day Saints church and community. So he is Mormon and very open about that. And when he first got his start on YouTube, this is probably back when he was in high school, he was doing like the stupid prank videos, you know, where you kind of go into a mall and you know, ask for something silly to be as an order, and then you laugh and giggle and run away. And he was doing stuff like, you know, he tried to sneak into a concert and film himself, you know, so that type of stuff where some people say it may be harmless or harmful, depends on how you interpret it, but that's the kind of stuff that he used to do. So I didn't watch him back then. And so what ended up happening was, at some point, roughly about a little over 2 years ago, probably coming up on 3 years ago, he came on and he said, hey, you know, as you guys know, I'm LDS, and I have a chance to go on a mission. And so within the LDS community, a lot of times people will go on missions where they will take 2 years of their life. Men and the women, they both do it. And they kind of ride around and deliver the gospel to people, you know, and try to save souls and convert folks. And so I've been very familiar with the LDS community. When I was a little kid, one of the neighbors down the street, a couple houses down, he was a member of the LDS community. He had a whole garage full of canned items and things that were designed to allow you to live a long time if something ever happened and basic societal structures broke down. So what he would do was, he wasn't the nicest guy in the world. He didn't want us on his grass or that kind of stuff, and that's not even related to him and his religious choices, but that's just what his characteristic was. So he was a very stern individual. We as kids, we were all scared of him, you know, but I became aware of him, and I remember he had a son, and his son, when he got to be 18, I think he was a little bit older than me, he took off and went on a mission. And a number of kids that were in our neighborhood, not in our neighborhood, but were in our local neighborhood on missions, they'd oftentimes stop by his house and talk to him real quick. They always had bicycles and white shirts and ties, and they would continue on talking to him, and then they would take off and leave and then maybe come back in a few weeks or something. So like I said, I was very familiar with the process and what folks did. And so he made a decision about 3 years ago to put it all behind and take off and leave and go on a mission before he gets to be too old. So he took a hiatus from YouTube, and he did a final podcast. It was one of him and his friends that was also part of the LDS church. And they had a good laugh and a good giggle, and they were like, well, I didn't think you were going to do it. Well, I didn't think you were going to do it. You know, that kind of stuff. But in the end, he said, oh, I'm signing out, guys. I'll see you in a couple years. And so that's it. He disappeared. And so you can go check it out for yourself. I think he's, that video is still up there. You'll be able to check it out and see it for yourself. And so what ended up happening was he ultimately came back, and he came back right towards the point where the election was kicking off. And so he takes, and his style completely changed. So he went from being like the, you know, the prankster type of person to being somebody that was a lot more mature. And I'm quite sure that what happened when he was on his mission, it allowed him to grow up and mature and, you know, kind of put some of his childish ways behind him. But he came back during the time where Trump was battling and talking about what he was going to do, and, you know, the border and all that. So he became a man on the street reporter. He became independent, and he'd have his cell phone and maybe one of his friends holding the camera, and he'd have a DJI mic, and then he'd take off and he'd talk to people, interview them. And you can always tell that, you know, he's definitely leans conservative. And so he wasn't completely unbiased in some of the things that he said, you know, in some of his opinions, which is expected. What can you do about that? You know, because there's news stations right now that are very similar. But he would be out in the streets, elbow to elbow, if there was a riot happening, if he was at the border, You know, he would go to different parts of the world when they had things happening in Europe. He'd be on the ground and he'd be out there talking to folks and walking around and interviewing. He was all in New York and all that kind of stuff. You know, so in the end, you know, what he just recently did with his new video is not anything different than he's done in the last year or so. So it's, I'm not surprised about any of that at all. And so, like I said, it popped up on my feed and he was working his way through Minnesota. And I think at that particular point, when I finally saw it, it already had blown up. They said it had millions and millions of views on Twitter. And I know it has millions and millions of views right now on Instagram. And I think he also has, I don't know how many, I think the last time I looked, he had several 100,000 followers on Instagram. Not Instagram, but on YouTube. So all I got to say is, you know, I'm not condoning anything that he did. You know, so what I'm here to talk about is what he actually did. And so that's kind of an unusual way to kind of say this. And so this is the thing, you know, I think all of us can learn something from Nick Shirley. I'm not talking about the content. I'm not talking about any of the political stuff. I'm not saying anything is right or anything is wrong or what the scenario is that's happening. All of us right now, a lot of us are having issues in our life where we are stagnant and we're stuck and a lot of things that we're doing are not really hitting. And so what he essentially did was he did a hard reset. He unplugged himself, he took off and he was gone for 2 years. Nobody heard from him online at all. And he went and found himself. He gained some maturity. And he, in his mind, probably develops a lot more of a mature growth perspective also as well. And so he came back and hit the ground and he pounded for about a year. And so this didn't just happen overnight for him at all. He was at this for well over a year. And he's got a lot of videos that he's done since he's been back on YouTube. And so all of a sudden, one of the things that he did, which is not anything different than what he's already been doing for the last year, all of a sudden blew up, took off, and now he is internet famous, you know. And so there's a lot that we can learn from somebody like Nick Shirley. I'm not talking about the content at all. I'm just talking about the hustle and the work ethic. So there's nothing wrong with trying everything you can and then stepping away and trying to figure it out, and then coming back with a new perspective and rest and determination and keep going at it. Because in the end, there's so many people that we run into in our lives that are against us and everything that we do. And ultimately, folks, it's very difficult. And this is one of the things that you'll find. If you ever go out and start a business, I'd probably say 90% of the people around you won't support you. It's just what happens. A lot of people don't want you to succeed. They don't want you to do something that they couldn't do. And a lot of times you're going to end up ultimately being on your own. And that's not always the case, but it's the case more often than not. Because I've talked to so many clients these days that have been like, you know, they are so surprised that they wanted to do this thing and they wanted to start this business and nobody around them supports them. You know, their parents don't support them. Their relatives and sisters and aunts and uncles and good friends and all that, they don't support them at all. And it's very discouraging, you know. And I tell them, you know what, hey, I went through the same thing. I had very few, when you do stuff for people for free, they expect it. But when you start to charge and expect to be fairly compensated, very few people close to you are willing to step up and pay the fee. And even in my life right now, I have family and friends around me, and if they're doing something and I'm supporting them, I'm not there to try to be part of it for free. If there's a fee that needs to be paid, I'll pay it. If there's money that needs to be paid, I'll pay it. If there's something that needs to be bought or purchased, or there's some other way. I've got a ton of clients right now, not a ton, I've got a few clients right now. One in particular I'm thinking of, he just wrote a book. And I said, hey, when the book comes out, send me the link and let me know where it's at. I'll go buy a copy of it. You know, so I'm not going to take my time necessarily and read it, but I'm going to at least, you know, buy it, put it on the shelf. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But at least I'm putting my money behind my support, you know. And so a lot of us will find that, you know, people around us are not going to support you. So I'm quite sure he had a lot of support in his community, but in the end, he had to make conversions. And so having his mom, dad, friends, aunts and uncles is not enough to be able to build up a channel. So at some point down the road, other folks are going to have to jump in and be like, hey, I like it. So that's what happened with him. You know, so we can all learn something in the fact that if you want to do something, you want to make something happen, and I'm not talking about anything specifics or condoning anything that he may or may not have done. The only person that you have there that can push you is just yourself. And sometimes you got to step away and get a blank sheet of paper and start all over and try it again. And before you know it, you know, you're going to start to get traction, and you got to try to make sure that you don't forget what you did that got you the interest in the first place. And so here he is right now. He is probably one of the most talked about people on the web. And right, excuse me. All right. He's one of the most talked about people on the web right now. And President Trump knows his name. All the members of the current administration know his name. You know, folks on the opposition, like not just the red team, but the blue team also knows who he is also as well. You know, and so the thing is, and this is something that we all have to deal with. You know, if you all of a sudden are grinding, hustling, trying to make a product, and then it blows up, and you've made the next, you know, pet rock that everybody is just crazy for, what are you going to have to do on your end to try to make sure that you stay focused and try to maintain, you know, your objective and not get caught up in the, you know, the hype, that you can stay focused on the mission and get through all of the hype and then let things stabilize and continue on and build a business. You know, so here he is. He's built something, and the interesting thing will be to watch him to see how he deals with this and this fame and newfound fortune, you know, so to speak. You know, is he going to be able to maintain his composure and keep it simple and realize that he was able to do all this with a cell phone and a DJI microphone? Or is he now all of a sudden going to hire a whole crew that follows him around everywhere, and he's asking, you know, silly questions and not following the lead correctly? You know, this is all to be seen. And these are all things that we should be aware of also for our lives as well. And I think this was a good thing. And I follow him and a number of other people that are similar. And they're essentially, here, hang on a second, let me get up this hill. Brother's getting a little winded here. All right. Whew. We're almost here. Okay. Okay, so we made it. So this is definitely a win, because like I was talking about before, there's been a ton of consolidation that has taken place within the television production land. Layoffs, acquisitions, big talent name brands, fired, let go. And these guys have all taken the route of trying to now be independent journalists. But their problem, if you watch somebody like Don Lemon, he definitely would have a gift, but everything that he does now is polluted by bias. And so if he was able to walk a little bit closer to the center, he can probably have a lot more followers, but I think this is definitely a win for independent journalism, and this allows any of us right now, and I think, just real quick, one of the things that allowed him to be successful, Nick Shirley, was that when he was on a mission, he went down to South America someplace. I don't remember what country it was, but he learned Spanish. So, and when he was doing a lot of his initial interviews, in New York and down at the border, he was speaking to the folks in their native language. So that was very helpful in allowing him to, expand the dialogue and, that definitely made a big difference in him getting to where he is right now, for sure. And so if you are thinking about becoming an independent journalist, there's no time like now to do it. All you simply need is a cell phone and a DJI microphone and the ability to ask probing questions and end up in ground zero, and you have a chance to be on the same plane and take advantage of the way the television and media production industry has kind of fallen off right now. So I say all this to say what he did and what's happened to him is something that can happen to all of us. And so all you need to do is come up with a plan and begin to execute. And if it's not working, don't give up on yourself. If you have to step away for a little while, regroup and get it together and come back and try it again. Let this be an example of how you can one day achieve your wildest dreams just based upon taking a pause in life. So yeah, that's it. So like I said, this whole conversation is not designed to be political in any kind of way. It's not designed to say what one person is doing is right or wrong. I'll let those that are more qualified make that decision. The main reason why I brought this topic up today is because it's something that we can all learn from, is never give up on yourself and keep at it. One day, at some point, when you least expect it, you will get what your wildest dreams are. And this is not unlike anybody that played high school football, then college football. They got drafted to the NFL and ended up signing a huge contract, and they're able to step out on the field and actually achieve their dream and then have a long life and career. 10 years in the NFL, 12 years, depending on the position, endorsements, build businesses, build wealth for your family. So when these kind of things do happen to you, you have to be ready to come up, realize that it's happened, stay true, stay focused, and don't let the monetary opportunity blow itself, because you may never get a thing like this to happen ever again. So that's it, guys. I think I'm close here to, I try to keep these things under 60 minutes. That way I can upload them to Facebook. Not Facebook, yeah, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. They like videos that are less than that in length. So hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. And the nice thing is, this is 2026. We got a brand new year. We're only 2 days into the year. And so this is your chance to blow up and explode this year and have a much better year that you've been having before in the past, based upon some of the things that you're going to be doing here in the next few days or few weeks to get yourself set up for success. You know, so this is a time every year where I close out the prior year, begin working on the new tax season. I revamp everything. I'm forced to start over from scratch, and this is usually when goals are established. And my wife and I, we are right now in the process of talking through things that we want to do this year and in the future, calendaring things, talking about, you know, estate planning, you know, all that good stuff. And this is a good time for folks to set reasonable goals that you can achieve, and then hold yourself accountable and check in periodically, and just make sure that you guys are tracking towards what you laid out to be important. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, changing your goals and your perspective as things happen, because sometimes, you know, things happen that you don't expect, and it may accelerate you or send you off in a completely different direction. So there's nothing wrong with, you know, having additional planning summits to talk about, you know, the successes that you've had, and most importantly, pivot in order to make sure that you still are moving forward for the year. So like I said, I wish you guys well in 2026. Wish you guys all happiness, peace, and prosperity. And with this tax season, you know, if you guys need help and assistance, feel free to reach out to me, and we can talk, and I can make sure, hopefully I can help you and get you on the right track towards achieving everything that you want to achieve. So I'm here for you guys in that way. So take care, peace, and I'll see you guys on the next CycleCast for sure. All right, guys. In my life. Oh, shit. Okay, my brother fell. This is black ice. Okay. All right, I'm okay. All systems check. All right, I'm good. So let me just penguin it.